cubing is undergoing a huge change right now because there are two groups of speed cubers. There are ones who train and ones who just practice, and the trainers are starting to win everything. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between training and practicing as a cuber and what it means for the sport. So first off, what's the difference between training and practicing? So let's use the example of exercise. A lot of people use the term I exercise or I train interchangeably, but there's a very big difference. If you go for a 30-minute walk every day, that's exercise because you're moving your body. If I decide that I'm going to run a 5K on December 1st, and for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to go out for a run and make the runs longer and faster until I can run the race at a certain speed, that's training. There's a huge difference between the two. Exercise is just moving for the sake of moving, whereas training is working toward a goal. Training isn't necessarily better than exercise unless you have a particular thing you're trying to accomplish. So if you think about what makes up training, there's kind of three parts to it. There's having measurable goal that you're working toward, measurable actions on the way to that goal, and progression, the ability to make the action harder each time you do it. And the thing with cubing right now is that there are some people who practice, like they do lots of solves, they learn lots of things, but they don't have like a specific goal and a plan of measurable actions that they gradually make harder to achieve that goal. And there's this really interesting quote from Madi Hiroto Inaba. I'll put it on screen now.
People need to start getting more calculated with their practicing style and their turning styles, their algorithms, their whole technique. Yiheng and Yiheng's team are kind of tapping into it in its early stages, but like in the end, they have to be very calculated if they want to even compete at this level. Because I think probably us are like the last generation of really intuitive cubers.
That's really.
Oh,
Are you thinking?
That pretty much encapsulates my thoughts. The intuitive cubers are the practicers, and the non intuitive cubers are the trainers. There are some people who train, who break down exactly what needs to happen into all the component parts, make a plan for how to get better at every component part, and then they start to win. So think about the cubers who are winning right now. Most of the Chinese kids train. They are told, learn these algorithms, practice this many times a day, change your practice this way, change your grip this way. Think about the way most cubers practice. Solves are just practice. Memorizing algorithms is more like training. You have a measurable goal, you have things you can do along the way, and you have ways you can progress your skill to get better at that thing. What that means is that there are very clear common weaknesses among cubers. Like there's this great clip of Timon where he talks about nobody knows full OLL.
Another thing is not learning full OLO. This is very, very common for some reason. It seems very weird to me to use a method and not know all of the algs required to use the method. So I think learning full OLO, if you don't know it, will be very, very useful.
That's because cubers want to practice instead of train. They want to just do something for the sake of doing it, like going for a daily walk and feeling like, yay, I exercised, instead of picking a goal and gradually making their work harder to improve toward that goal. This is why we have so many all rounders in North America, because all rounding is essentially people who practice a ton instead of picking one event and training themselves across disciplines in that one event. Whereas in the East, where their cultural mentality is extremely regimented and process oriented, and I know that's a generalization, like Eastern cubing has way more people who pick one event or like big cubes or, one type of event and just drill into it super, super well. If you look around cubing too, there's a whole bunch of examples right now of people who train intentionally and are winning. I'm going to put a bunch of clips on screen right now of people who I've noticed in cubing that talk like trainers. And when they do that, they very clearly showed dominant streaks of performance.
Where I went from this to this. This is something that I did heaps throughout my journey. I learned something as fast as possible and then practiced it so much. I like to think of it as seasons, a learning season and then a practice season. In the learning season, you have to go as hard as you can to learn it quickly, and then in practice season, you have to do some reviewing alongside lots of solves. I did it! I had broken the oceanic record, this time of 14.26.
Last year, when I was in Ohio for the Great Lakes Championship, I was staying at a friend's place for about a week, and he was at university, so he would leave in the morning and come back in the evening. And for those like 6 to 8 hours that he was at university, I'd just be sitting at his place, going between doing attempts of predicting full F2L. That would take me like anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes, and then doing a few of those, getting really tired, taking a few hours break, and then going back to it. Then he would come back home, and I'd be like, yeah, I predicted F2L once. So this is something that's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time, and that's completely normal. You won't get it right at first, but it's really rewarding when you do get it right and you see that the pieces you were planning are solved. And it's also a very tiring drill, so don't be worried if you notice that you get tired after a few attempts. That's normal, but over time, that fatigue is going to make you better. So just keep doing it and don't go too hard.
So I hope I've convinced you by now that it's cubers who intentionally train that get to the top level and stay at the top level. So what's left is, should you train? Like, that's actually a question, because there are a lot of people who don't want to train. Like, let's take pickleball, for example. I love playing pickleball, but I like getting better at things. So when I go play pickleball, I have a goal every time I step on the court. I have people who I practice specific shots of the game with. I have a coach who I'll hire once in a while, and he'll give me pointers on this thing or that thing. And I have other friends who just want to show up and have a good time. They don't even want to train, and that's okay. I'm not going to be like, dude, you have to get a coach. You have to get better at pickleball. I'm just going to be like, whatever, bro. I just go have a good time, mess around. If that's you in cubing, then great. Be honest about that and don't try to train. But what bugs me is people who deep down really do want to be fast. They really do want to be good at cubing. And this was me for most of my cubing career. But they're not willing to make a concrete goal, figure out all the specific ways you work toward that. I'm going to learn this alg set. I'm going to do this particular drill for my F2L, this particular drill for my cross. I'm going to critique this part of my solve and figure out how to make it better, right? If deep down you want to be fast, then make a training plan and actually do it. For me, it's just taken a really long time to come to grips with the fact that I love cubing enough and want to be fast enough that training is worth it. Training is obviously harder in the moment than practicing, but it brings a deeper joy at the end of the line because you every day show up and have a little goal to hit. I have to practice this way today. And when you hit it, it's a tiny little hit of dopamine. It's a tiny little hit of dopamine and a tiny little bit of growth. And over time, those individual training days stack up into really, really cool long-term sets of progress. So anyway, that's just a little ramble because I right now am starting my cubing training arc. I post videos on this channel each week where I just talk about what I'm training and how. I hired Luke Greiser to coach me, and I plan for that to be a relatively long-term thing. I'm married. I have a full-time job. I have a business that I'm starting. Like, I have settled my life down a little bit, but I've also known how to cube for about 10 years and finally decided, you know what? I want to be good. And in order to get good, I have to train to be good. I can't just keep practicing and being a lifestyle cuber at this point. So if this helps anybody think a little bit, that's great. And feel free to leave questions or comments down below. I read and respond to all of them.